Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across
Hello and welcome to WION Live broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani. First, a look at this hour's top stories for you. On a visit to Northern Ireland on the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Peace Agreement, U.S. President Joe Biden urges political parties there to restore the power-sharing agreement, saying the deal shifted the political gravity of the world. U.S. sensitive document leaks on Ukraine may be a move to deceive Russia, says Moscow. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov tells news agencies the leak could be intentional. A gruesome video of a beheading, allegedly from Ukraine, raises shockwaves. EU vows to hold war criminals to account. Kremlin says the video must be verified. U.S. consumer inflation slows to 5% in March year-on-year, but high rents keep up pressure on underlying inflation pressures. All eyes are now on the Federal Reserve to see if it will raise interest rates once again next month. The White House unveils new proposed auto emission rules with aggressively low emission standards. The rules are designed to accelerate a transition to electric vehicles for 2/3 of the U.S. car market by 2032. And LeBron James shines as the Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA play-in tournament to seal a playoff berth. Classified U.S. government documents posted online message boards made their way into the mainstream media late last week. The documents are mostly related to the Pentagon's plans and speculation of the ongoing war in Ukraine. The Pentagon has vowed to find the source of the leak in what may be the largest security breach in the United States in at least a decade. More in our next report.
Plans related to the biggest conflict of our times have been leaked. The world is still coming to terms with the damage it can do. For one, they reveal US Intel's downbeat assessment of Ukraine's war preparedness. They highlight shortfalls in troop numbers and equipments. In the documents, US intelligence also warned that Ukraine was fast running out of air defenses, potentially ceding air superiority to Russia by May. It also revealed that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was planning to attack targets inside the Russian territory. The documents also shed some light on the involvement of other countries in the Russia-Ukraine war. One of the documents says the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi ordered the production of 40,000 rockets to be covertly shipped to Russia. The White House, however, said no weapons have been sent. One document suggests that UK deployed as many as 50 special forces to Ukraine between February and March this year. This accounted for more than half of the Western special forces in the country at the time. The figure is considerably higher than the number from the US and France, which were said to have deployed 14 and 15 special forces respectively. The British Ministry of Defence, however, has cast doubt on these reports. The UK says the leak of allegedly classified information has demonstrated a serious level of inaccuracy. Another leaked document brought South Korea to the fore. Citing intelligence signals, the report says that the South Korean National Security Office was concerned that ammunition, particularly artillery shells, supplied to the US could end up in Ukraine. This would have violated national laws on supplying arms to a party in an active conflict. The documents appeared to reflect that the US was spying on its Asian ally. South Korea's opposition has therefore urged the government to investigate the alleged espionage. The government in Seoul has also sought to downplay the importance of the leaked documents. The president's office claims that a significant number of the documents were fake. But the damage is done. The world's sole superpower has failed to keep its secrets locked up.
And I've directed an urgent cross-department effort. And we've referred the matter to the Department of Justice, which has opened a criminal investigation. Now, I can't say much more while the Justice Department's investigation is ongoing, but we take this very seriously. Again, I won't speculate, Andrea. I will tell you that we take this very seriously, and we will continue to investigate and turn over every rock until we find the source of this and the extent of it.
So it is now going after the source of the leak. So the big question at the moment is, where did the documents come from? The first screenshots of the verifiable documents were posted on the 1st of March. More appeared a few days later. They appeared on Discord, a social media platform popular with gamers. The documents were then shared on several discussion channels. One of those on the chat group claims to have taken the images from another channel on Discord, which has since been deleted. The claim is hence impossible to verify. The investigative website Bellingcat has seen evidence that some documents could have been posted in January or even earlier. These documents remained on Discord largely undetected before spreading to other platforms in early April and eventually being picked up by US officials and the mainstream press. Questions that have arisen in the aftermath of the leak are, why would someone leak the documents publicly? And who would benefit most from the leak?
For more on this, a former Pentagon intelligence officer and a former military officer, Ron Alito, is joining us live from Miami, Florida. Ron, welcome to WION, and thank you for joining us. I guess the big question is, ultimately, who are the winners and losers of these leaked documents? What would be the motivation for the person or organization who has leaked them? And how do you assess the information that we're seeing? A lot of it was something that we already, for the most part, knew.
Well, we need to understand that if these documents are real and if they are authentic, this damages the U.S. national security apparatus because these are classified, restricted documents that only few people within the U.S. government should have access to. But if they are authentic, obviously this leak damages the plans of the United States, what the United States knows about other countries, what the United States is planning for the Russia-Ukrainian war, etc. So this obviously damages, in many senses, the U.S. national security. Now, the big question is how authentic these documents are. Because one possibility is that they are 100% authentic, that somebody is sneaking into the classified computers of the United States, somebody with a clearance, somebody with access, and took pictures or took whatever way and then disclosure them to the press. But the other possibility is that this is perhaps, who knows, it's a hypothesis. This is a controlled leak of the U.S. government. With modified documents, with false documents, just to create disinformation in Russia, for example, or disinformation in China, for example. So this is the big question, is how authentic, what percentage of authenticity these documents have. But if they are true and if they are authentic, that obviously damages very much the U.S. National security.
damage for the U.S. national security. The most interesting thing many believe that one can glean from this document is that there is a consistent trend when it comes to U.S. intelligence. Successes and failures have happened in the past year, and the United States has outstanding intelligence data, but it's often, if they are real, off the mark in its analyses. For American intelligence leaders, should this be a cause for concern? I'll give you an example. For example, the United States knew as early as February 2022 that there were unambiguous signs that Ukraine had trouble defeating Russia. But then the analyses that we got was very different from our intelligence leaders. Do you think this is a cause for concern for our leaders?
Obviously, that is how big powers work. Not only the United States, but great powers work. They have intelligence and they have knowledge that they don't share completely with the public. They have knowledge and that they share only a little portion of that knowledge with the public, with the press. And perhaps they purposely, they deceive the public. For example, they know that Ukraine cannot win this war. They know that Ukraine, in the end, will lose this war, but that's not what they say publicly. They say, we support Ukraine and we will be with Ukraine until the end. And Ukraine will win, or Ukraine will take back Crimea. Obviously, militarily and intelligence, from the intelligence perspective, they know that that's not possible, but they don't want to disencourage the Ukrainian resistance. They don't want to hurt the morale of the Ukrainian soldiers or the Ukrainian government, and they want to keep pushing for all governments of the world to keep sending weapons to Ukraine one way or another. So they keep to themselves the truth, the intelligence they have, and instead they promote a false narrative to the press and a false narrative to other countries so they can keep going with their political objectives.
Ron Alito, thank you so much for joining us and providing insight into this issue, which is a cause for concern for American intelligence leaders and also many allies around the world as well.
Thank you very much.
A horrific video has triggered an international outcry. It claims to show Russians beheading a Ukrainian prisoner of war. The video lasts around 1 minute and 40 seconds. It shows a masked man in camouflage decapitating another man in uniform. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reacted to the video. He's denounced the culprits as beasts. His administration, meanwhile, has compared Russia to the Islamic State and called it worse than the once dreaded terror group. Reacting to the development, the European Union pledged to hold war criminals to account, while the UN mission in Ukraine said it was, quote unquote, appalled. Since the war began last February, Moscow and Kyiv have repeatedly accused each other of killing prisoners of war. Several videos alleging to show POW killings have made the rounds on the internet over the past year. Following the emergence of a new video, Zelensky said in an address posted on social media that, quote, the world must see what he called an execution of a Ukrainian captive. U.S. President Joe Biden is in Northern Ireland on a 4-day visit to mark 25 years since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, which ended 30 years of bloodshed. Biden addressed students and prominent personalities of Northern Ireland gathered at the Ulster University. The U.S. president hailed the Good Friday Agreement, adding that it took people coming together all across Northern Ireland to make it happen. While sharing a deep root between the Irish and Americans, Biden said Northern Ireland's future is America's future, as he paid tribute to the countless Irish who made opportunities across the Atlantic by planting farms and making communities, while hoping the Assembly and executive authorities soon return to power in the region. He also added that the economic opportunities for Northern Ireland are just beginning, as he urged the leaders in UK and the EU to address the problems and differences in Northern Ireland, which has emerged due to the newly introduced post-Brexit deal. Earlier, Biden and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak met for a casual chat. The two leaders are expected to discuss U.S. investment in Northern Ireland and the efforts to support Ukraine. President Biden will also engage with each of the leaders of the Northern Ireland's 5 main political parties. According to police officials, around 300 officers from across the UK would be in Northern Ireland over a 2-week period to provide special support. This includes specialist escort officers, firearms specialists, and search specialists. Recently, UK spy agency MI5 raised Northern Ireland's terrorism level to severe. The major issue for Ukraine authorities remains that the security situation is tense in the region, as the police events are expected to cost around £7 million. This comes after police warned of a potential public disorder linked to the disapproval of the deal by the Republicans. Earlier, a group of mass protesters attacked a police vehicle with a petrol bomb as they opposed the Good Friday peace accord. After a half-day visit in Northern Ireland, Biden, who is fiercely proud of his Irish heritage, will then travel to the Republic of Ireland for almost 3 days of meetings with officials and distant relatives. Well, for more on this, our correspondent, Alex Izat, is joining us live from London. Alex, good to see you. So what are the elements of the Good Friday deal which remain unresolved even until now?
Well, the Good Friday Agreement is what Joe Biden, the US president, was saying today, that needs to be celebrated. It did put a halt to that 30 years of fighting, although it hasn't put it to a halt completely. Obviously, we're still seeing dissident groups. You mentioned there about the petrol bombs, but there was also pipe bombs found in the cemetery this week, and there was an attempted murder of a police officer. Now, these troubles have been going on for centuries, and that isn't stopping, it looks like, sadly, anytime soon. So there is still much to have a discussion with regards. What it comes down to is the island of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Some people want this reunification, which would mean that Ireland itself is a whole country rather than being part of the United Kingdom. And of course, with Brexit and the Windsor framework, and previous to that, it was the Northern Ireland Protocol, has been really upsetting a lot of people who really want to just see the country come together as a whole rather than being split into two. Obviously, Joe Biden wasn't really there today to try and enforce that discussion. In fact, in his speech earlier, he was trying to be very clever and careful with what he was exactly saying, because as we know, Northern Ireland does not have a sitting parliament at the moment, and that's because the DUP is against the Northern Ireland Protocol and now the Windsor framework, and they don't want to be pushing forward when there is so much argument still to have. But Joe Biden did say that he would really encourage a conversation and to move forward. And he did speak to all those 5 leaders ahead of that speech there. But since then, we have heard from the DUP again, who said that this is not going to change anything, and they want more constructive conversations. The people are really the ones that are missing out in Northern Ireland, because they don't have a elevated parliament which they can go to have their issues resolved. Of course, Joe Biden will be speaking to those leaders again, and no doubt other leaders, as he takes on his journey around Ireland and goes to his ancestral home. But for now, there doesn't seem to be any movement within the political spectrum.
Alex, thank you so much for that update. Alex Izat, our correspondent, joining us live from London. The question many are asking, is the United States looking to gain lost ground in West Asia on the back of China's peace moves in the region? U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. They discussed Iran and steps aimed at ending the war in Yemen. Sullivan and Crown Prince Salman also discussed broader trends towards de-escalation in the region. They also talked about underscoring the need to maintain deterrence against threats from Iran and elsewhere. Sullivan reaffirmed Washington's unwavering commitment to ensure that Iran can never acquire a nuclear weapon. An Iranian delegation arrived in Saudi Arabia on Wednesday, paving the way for the reopening of diplomatic missions. The announcement came just days after a Saudi delegation made a similar visit to Tehran. The developments came after Beijing recently brokered a deal to restore relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The United States was largely left out of the process, which was later widely termed as China's diplomatic coup in West Asia. The foreign ministers of Iran and Saudi Arabia met in Beijing last week. In the China-brokered deal, the two sides agreed to end the diplomatic rift following years of hostility that fueled conflicts across West Asia. Imagine your employer giving you a full year's pay, granting you leave so your shares can vest, and then being able to avail a slew of job support opportunities to find your next big job. Too good to be true? Well, that's what Google and Amazon are doing in Europe. But there's a twist. Take a look at this report to find out what that is.
Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Twitter, these are some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley. And they're known for hiring the best talent in tech. But it isn't all smooth sailing for these big tech companies given the current macroeconomic outlook. Margin pressure has reduced shareholder returns at most of these companies. And if there's someone they love more than their customers and their employees, it is their shareholders. While these companies have announced big job cuts in the US and elsewhere, they are struggling to fire employees in some European countries. That's because countries like France and Germany have the most stringent employee protection laws and unions in the world. So these companies have found an innovative way to make employees in these locations leave. Amazon has reportedly announced voluntary departure packages to employees in such countries. According to reports, employees with 5 to 8 years of experience will get a whole year's pay to resign. And those with ESOPs have been granted departure leaves so their shares can vest and be paid out as bonuses. Google has also announced similar packages to reduce its headcount in the continent. Now you might be wondering why companies would pay a whole year's salary to make people leave. Well, it can help companies downsize and save costs in the long run. It can also make operations more cost-effective by increasing efficiency. But the most important is legal protection and unemployment insurance claims. A high unemployment insurance claim against a company can increase their state tax rates and penalties, which can be avoided by negotiating packages that benefit the employer and the employee. But given the current job market, will employees benefit from taking the severance? Or are big tech companies just finding innovative ways to get lean at any cost?
That's all the time we have from this news desk on WION here in New York City. I'm Susan Terfrani. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. But don't go away. More news and headlines coming up next, only on WION.
Many other
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't.